Copeland and his lovely wife on TV all the time. There are rumors that I can't substantiate these, I don't know, but there's all kind of rumors about Copeland actually being gay. Yeah. Now Baker was another one, but he's pretty much out of the team. Although he's having kind of a bit of a revival. Baker taught more of the gospel than most of the rest of them do. The other one, it's really a big problem, is Joyce Meyer, who people admire. But if you read a lot of Joyce Meyer stuff, she is not a conservative Christian by any stretch. Not even remotely. And there are lots of other people who are on that list, but those people, they're false teachers and false prophets. They're not teaching the gospel. And then finally, I want to look at politicians. Yeah, well, yeah. But we're going to focus on one because he stands out for a reason. Most politicians are deceivers and liars, but you know they're deceiving you and lying to you when they talk. You know, I mean, there's an old joke: how do you know a politician is lying? His lips are moving. You know, politicians have been known for that. But there is a guy on the current scene named James Tallarico. Now, you're going to see a lot of this guy over the next 6 months. Okay? Yes, he's from Texas. He has been nicknamed by his opponent Talafrico, and he adopted that with all fervor, and he actually printed campaign shirts that says, I'm Talafrico. And he buys into it. But anyway, here's his bio, okay? He is running for the Senate against Ken Paxton in Texas. Ken Paxton is the current Attorney General in Texas. Now, Paxton is a conservative Republican. He does have his problems. He has an ugly affair in his past that he admitted to, some other things, but he isn't come clean about it, okay? Tallarico is using him against him, but it doesn't matter because his own words are going to sink his ship. Now remember, he's from Texas. Beef grower to the world, okay? He is a seminary graduate, has a Master of Divinity degree, considered to be the eternal degree for pastor. He is also an ordained Presbyterian minister, currently pastoring a church in Austin, Texas, where he lives. Now, if you look him up online, you'll find all kinds of YouTube clips from him preaching in his church. Now, he's 37 years old, never been married, which is not necessarily a crime in and of itself. Although, when his sexuality got challenged, he suddenly produced a girlfriend that he said he's been dating for 4 years and nobody's ever seen until a couple weeks ago, which I thought was interesting. But he's a baby-faced little guy, looks like he's about 19 years old. Very smooth talker, very intelligent, okay? But, and he preaches this Christian pastor thing. He plays it to the hilt, okay? But here's what he believes, okay? He believes that God is non-binary. Now, I don't think God is masculine or feminine in the sense that we use masculine and feminine to describe the people sitting in this room. Okay? We got an even split here. 4 of us tend to be males, 4 of us tend to be females. That's just the way it is. Okay? I don't think God is male and female in that regard. But clearly, God presents himself as a masculine entity. Jesus said, "Our Father." Okay? Now, despite what the liberals tell you about who can have babies and who can't, Father is a very masculine word. Okay? Jesus called himself the Son. It's a rather masculine word. Okay? This guy believes God is non-binary. And the reason he says that, he quotes the verse that Paul said, in Christ there is neither slave nor free, male or female, Jew nor Gentile. Okay? That means God doesn't view male and female as legitimate categories. What that means is God sees males and females as being equal in his eyes. Just like slave people and free people and Jews and Gentiles, God sees them all as equal. That's what that verse means. Okay? He believes there are 6 biological genders. Can't name the other 4, but that's what he believes. He's on record as saying it. He says the Bible is completely silent on abortion. Franklin Graham has taken him to task, chewed him up and spit him out over this one, published some really good stuff. But he said the Bible doesn't say anything about abortion. He said the government should have zero control over the abortion industry or a women's decision to have an abortion. And he capped all that off with saying that God gave Mary permission to abort Jesus when the angel appeared to her. Now, I've read that passage. I've preached from that passage. I've written songs from that passage. I don't think it says that. I don't see anywhere in that passage where God gave Mary permission to abort Jesus. Now, how he interprets it is, he said God was asking Mary's permission to impregnate her with Jesus. And Mary agreed. Okay? That's how he interprets it. Remember, the angel said, the Holy Spirit will come upon you, and you will conceive. And Mary said, may it be unto me according to your word. In other words, may God's will be done, in essence. Okay? He takes that, he interprets that verse to believe that creation of life only should occur with consent. So, if you have sex and get pregnant, and you didn't consent to get pregnant, even though you obviously consented to have sex, therefore, you don't have to carry the baby because the creation of life requires consent. That's his position. Now, the Bible is not silent on abortion. Before I formed you in your mother, and knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Okay, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I was knit together, in the secret place. The Bible is pretty clear about abortion. That it's God's will that it's not happening. Okay, so he's a big supporter of the trans movement, including the government paying for genital mutilation and gender assignment surgery. Isn't it interesting in a world where your genitals determine what gender you are? When they do gender reassignment surgery, they only have two options. I mean, think about that. No, it doesn't change who you are. But isn't that interesting how their own argument is so ridiculous? The argument is, well, genitals don't define sexuality. Okay, so if I'm a boy, you think I'm a girl, and you cut my penis off, what are you going to do for me? If I'm going to have a complete surgery, you're going to rebuild me and give me a vagina. Well, you've only got two options. Either the penis that I had or the vagina you're going to give me. I mean, think about that. It's rather silly. Okay? Now, if you don't believe that's true, you can find pictures online of his church library. It contains books written for children on gayness and transitioning. Okay? He's actually posed with these books in his church library. It's not something somebody made up to get even with it. They're literally pictures online. Some of the very books, by the way, if you've seen these clips of people standing up at school board meetings and reading, and the school board president going, oh, this is polite society, you can't have that read here, because it's so pornographic and disgusting. And the parent goes like, no. We're all adults in this room. This is in the library. My second grader checked it out. Don't tell me I can't read it in an adult meeting. You expect my second grader to read it. Okay? That kind of stuff is in his church library. He believes that cows are an existential threat to the environment. He's a huge climate change guy. Which, by the way, has so proven to be false that even the United Nations, who are huge climate change pushers for the last 40 years, the people at the appropriate bureau at the United Nations last week or the week before came out and said the whole climate change thing is a scam and a hoax. It never existed. And they were the pushers who pushed it. And they have all these scientists that signed off on their thing. Complete total fraud. Okay. And yet, this freak is pushing the climate change things. And cows are going to be our undoing because they fart methane gas, and it's going to destroy the ozone, and we're all going to cook. One of the nut jobs said that in the 1970s, it would be so hot that all the rivers would dry up, and all the fish would die because there would be no more fresh water on the planet. In the 70s, that's 50 years ago. There's still fish in the water. Okay, I mean, think about it. Now, existential threat because they fart, he is also a pronounced vegan. And eating meat is a gross and terrible sin. Now, he actually is on record, video this, saying we are running a vegan campaign and we will only shop at our vegan-friendly outlets. Now, when he won the primary, that was while he was in the Texas State House. He was the Texas representative. Once he won the primary, and he knew he was going to be on a statewide thing running for the Senate. By the way, Texas has not sent a Democrat to the Senate in 40 years. And this idiot thinks he can win. But that's another story. I don't get a vote. Although, and people are saying, since they don't want voter ID, which he doesn't believe in voter ID either, by the way. Since he doesn't believe in voter ID, I think all the Republicans from Michigan ought to go to Texas and vote for his opponent. Because they can't ID him. That's racist. But anyway, he was running this vegan campaign. Well, once he got called out about that idiotic statement in a state where they grow thousands and millions of cows and feed the world beef, he posed with a big hunk of barbecue ribs wrapped in a napkin, and he's just chawing away on it. And the commentator said, no Texan has ever eaten ribs like that in the history of Texas ribs. Okay, but then he said, oh no, that was not, I'm not really a vegan. He said, I was eating ribs before Ken Paxton got his first indictment, which was a little slap at his opponent for some of his legal problems. But the guy, that makes him an absolutely pathological liar too, because he's saying the exact opposite of what he said 2 years ago. So either you're a vegan or you're not. I mean, there is no middle ground. Okay. But cows are going to destroy the planet. Great point. That's a great answer, actually. Yeah. If you can change genders, I can change my veganism.
I'm only vegan on certain days. The rest of the time.
Yeah. I'm only a meat eater when the Republicans challenge me, and I got to give a photo op. Yeah.
Gotta make that point.
Yeah. So anyway, he's the end of the whole process. Okay, the Antichrist. Here's the question: who is he? Is he alive? How will we know when he shows up? Well, hopefully next week we'll shed some light on those. Well, 2 weeks actually. We're not going to meet next week because we're going to Cincinnati. 2 weeks from today, when we come back for lesson 4, we will talk about those questions. 10 characteristics of the Antichrist. Fascinating lesson. I think you will really enjoy it. All right. Well, this. There it is right there. 10 characteristics of the Antichrist. Yeah, right.
Instead of just doing away with it,
that would make sense. And see, that's what intrigues me about how silly some of their positions are. Okay, if cows really are a threat, then